Constitution, demanding the rights of we the people, broadcasting the truth the puppet media dare not report. Long live liberty and death to the New World Order. Prepare yourself. This is Real News Radio with your host, Farron.
Hello and welcome to the Real News Radio. This is your weekly broadcast where we discuss current events, politics, the disinformation, the falsehoods, and the propaganda propagated by the mainstream puppet media. Our guest today will be Congresswoman Virginia Foxx. She will be joining us after the first break, and in the second hour we will be taking calls from the listeners. We want to go ahead and get started with some news. We have been reported since Brian and myself started this broadcast March 1st of last year. We have had congressmen on the House floor saying that martial law was imminent if they didn't allow the Federal Reserve to loot the Treasury. This week, as everyone knows, we have had a lot of news as far as the town hall meetings, people coming out actually deciding to stand up against this Goliath of an oppressive government. Thank God. But to get us started, this past week, Georgia Congressman Paul Brown warned attendees of a town hall event Tuesday that the Obama administration was planning to use a pandemic or a natural disaster to implement martial law in the United States. Speaking at the North Georgia Technical College auditorium, Brown said that the socialistic elite, as well as Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, were planning to exploit a crisis to create a favorable climate for their stalling political agenda. And as everyone knows now, Obama, as the media so dubbed him the Messiah, his ratings are below what Bush's were or any president's at the same time. They're trying to develop an environment where they can take over, he said. We've seen that historically. Brown warning arrives on the back of a letter sent by the National Governors Association to the Pentagon last week, which condemns the military's plan to usurp domestic control of National Guard and federal forces deployed in the event of a natural disaster or a terrorist attack. Now, I hope everyone understood that real clear. In next hour, we're going to be playing a clip of a National Guard training event that's going on right now, and everyone's going to need to be made aware of that. But in December 2008, it was announced that more than 20,000 active duty soldiers will be placed inside the United States under NORTHCOM to help state and local officials respond to a nuclear terrorist attack or a domestic catastrophe. Domestic emergency deployment may be just the first example of a series of expansions in presidential and military authority, or even an increase in domestic surveillance, warned Anna Christian of the ACLU's National Security Project. Congressman Brown has been a thorn in the side of the Obama agenda since day one, voting against the cap-and-trade bill and slamming the entire concept of man-made global warming as a hoax. He also spoke out against Obama's plan to create a national civilian security force, warning that the program sounded like a 21st century Gestapo and that it was part of a move toward a Marxist dictatorship. That's exactly what Hitler did in Nazi Germany, and that's exactly what they did in the Soviet Union. So we will be continuing to report on this. We've got an anti-gun president that's interested in making a national security force that is also reported here by a congressman from Georgia is going to use this flu pandemic hoax that they're perpetuating to instigate martial law. Brian, we've reported this so many times. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think we've had every kind of scenario? The flu's coming up on us, according to their crystal ball, within 1 to 3 months. Any surprise we're seeing more of this from congressmen?
No, not at all. I mean, there's definitely good members of Congress out there that actually try to represent the people and do, what they're hired to do, which is, again, work for we the people. But still, I mean, criminals, this is what they do. They always try to find a way into what they ultimately want to achieve. And when one plan is thwarted, well, they just come up with another one, and that's precisely what we've always witnessed. Where things we report here on the Real News, you might see that never come to fruition, but it's they just try another avenue and another way, just like the North American Union. I mean, they just never stop. They're relentless.
Well, the American people need to wise up to the fact that they do not live in any kind of state of freedom here in America anymore. The elite, the international bankers that control our puppet government have rapidly eroded any kind of freedom. That's why we're taxed into poverty, and they're trying to make a gigantic step into socialized medicine, which for once has got the American people showing up, making signs, and actually protesting like what me, you, and Jim, and some of the rest of us have been doing for years. It's very interesting. This kind of thing right here is not reported in the mainstream press, and that's what our goal is here on The Real News, is to bring you real news that the filtered puppet media does not want you to hear, because they tell you what they want you to hear, they tell you how they want you to dress, they tell you how they want you to eat, they tell you how they want you to think. And we're here, we don't care what you think, what you believe, but we're going to tell you the real news, and you can look into it for yourself. We've got Virginia Foxx coming up in just a few minutes. Anything you'd like to add before we go to break? We've probably got about 5 minutes left.
This was written by a liberal writer, David Lindorf. And again, a liberal writer wrote this on Obamacare. Obamacare is the health reform of bank bailouts are the financial system reform, which is to say it is the opposite of what its name implies. These are not really town hall meetings at all, at least in the sense of town hall meetings I grew up with and started to cover as a young journalist in Connecticut. Meetings called and run democratically with leaders elected from the floor, open to all residents of a community. These town hall meetings are really nothing but propaganda sessions run by members of Congress who are trying to burnish their fraudulent credentials as public servants and trying to perpetuate a huge fraud of a health care bill that purports to be a progressive reform of the U.S. health care system, but actually further entrenches the control of that system by the insurance industry and, to a lesser extent, the hospital and drug industry. Obamacare is the health reform of bank bailouts are the financial system reform, which is to say it is the opposite of what its name implies. Americans are about to be royally screwed on health care reform by the President and Democratic Congress, just as they've been screwed by the financial system reform. The appropriate response to the screw job is the one the right has adopted: shut down these sham town hall meetings and run the sellout politicians out of town on a rail, preferably coated in tar and feathers, the way snake oil salesmen of old used to be handled. This is not about civil discourse. This is about propaganda. The Obama administration and Democratic congressional leadership have sold out health care reform for the tainted coin of the medical industrial complex, and are holding or trying to hold these meetings around the country to promote legislation that has essentially been written for them by that industry, legislation that will force everyone to pay for insurance offered and priced by the private insurance industry. What a deal for those companies, a captive market of 300 million plus people. There will be little or no effort to control prices, and the higher costs will be financed through higher taxes. This isn't reform, it's corruption, pure and simple.
You know, there's been so much that's come out about the health care bill. Death panels, the elderly every 5 years being screened, preparing them for death. It's managed health care. The federal government has never managed anything for the American people properly. That's how come Social Security's been looted. For any of the liberal public that thinks they want the federal government to manage their health care, when they see how they manage our economy and manage our finances, I mean, what must they be thinking?
Well, look at all the wars we've launched. The war on terrorism. We have much more terrorism threats now than we used to have. The war on poverty.
When they launch a war like that, war on poverty, that really means give us your money. War on drugs, that means give us your money and your rights and your freedom. War on terrorism, definitely give us your rights to privacy. And anytime they launch a war on anything, it's funny, we get more of it.